You know, the diesel example you just raised, what comes to mind again is also looking at DPK kerosene, which the government also deregulated at that point in time. But a whole lot of people never got to buy except from the NNPC stations.
Yeah.
Well, the big question here is if the man in Abia, in Umwa here, in Damaturu, in Benin City, is getting petrol to buy far above 87 naira,
Correct.
some even as high as 200 naira,
Yeah.
that product didn't just fall from the sky. It then means that that same product is a product that the government must have subsidized.
Right.
And you're buying it also way above the regulated price.
Correct.
And the regulatory agencies are handicapped in a way because they can't spread out and put a stop to all of this. What should we be saying at this point in time, knowing full well that we all have a headache getting the product? We have a headache buying it at far above the regulated price. We have a headache with the regulatory agencies. And we also have a headache of losing monies that should have gone into something else.
Correct. Correct. Well, if you're talking about DPK, which is kerosene, I think one of the highlights of this recent medium-term expenditure framework released by government is that no provision has been made for kerosene subsidy going forward from 2016, simply because there has been a lot of politics around has the subsidy on kerosene been removed or not, right? Kerosene was meant to be sold at 50 naira per liter. The average Nigerian never got to buy 1 liter of kerosene at that price, except for maybe a handful of NNPC petrol stations dotted across the country's landscape. So my view still remains, government, take a step back, remain the regulator, supervise the market, set the rules and the standards, but allow private sector and private capital to come into these sectors. So get out of petrol, get out of kerosene, you are out of diesel. Ultimately, allow private sector initiative, because the average private sector investor who invests capital expects to make a return, and they can only make their return if they deliver efficient services at a competitive price. And I think that is the direction government needs to steer this economy.
Okay, I'm very sure you are aware that the NLC has kicked against the removal of subsidy. In fact, they say they described it, at the NLC, the president described it as a fundamental right of the citizens and responsibility that the government owes the Nigerian people. He went as far as citing the DPK and the kerosene case as an example. He says the prices will go up, transportation is going to go up when subsidy is removed, and if government does not subsidize, what is the guarantee that the marketers won't come up one day and say, okay, we are going to sell 200 naira. Kerosene, it was supposed to go for 50 naira.
Correct.
Very few Nigerians got at that price, and the government could not really do anything. So if this subsidy is removed, it's going to affect Nigerians negatively.
Well, I think this is the time for every Nigerian to embrace the sacrifice that is required to get out of this hole. You know, the issue of the removal of subsidy, we really do not have a choice. Years ago, when we had 40, 50, 60 billion dollars in reserve, we could say we have sufficient buffer to handle the impact of declining oil prices, and we even have the capacity to subsidize the cost of this product to the average Nigerian. The reality today is Nigeria's foreign reserve is dwindling by the day. Your newspaper reports today said we've lost another $5 billion inside of those reserves. So it is all well and good for trade groups and labor unions and everybody to come up and make all of these nice, grandiose statements. But the average Nigerian, in the last couple of years, his standard of living has dropped and continues to drop. So the questions to really ask ourselves is, should we continue to spend an average of ₦1 trillion per annum
okay, 87, 77 plus 15, 87 naira. If the subsidy is removed,
Yes.
the bottlenecks at the ports, would those also be removed as well? Would
Very
they go
good.
with the subsidy?
Okay, so let's backtrack a bit. Now, the first question is, what is the guarantee that the Nigerian people will benefit from whatever savings the country gets as a result of government removing itself from this subsidy regime? Now, I think as a nation, we're all of 55 years, and I think that our democracy on a continuous basis continues to get refined. For the first time this year, we saw a civilian change that came as a result of the votes of the people taking out a government that they felt had not delivered on its promises. Now, what I want to believe is that the average Nigerian has become emboldened by what has happened this year. The average Nigerian now knows that they have a vote, and to a large extent, they can make that vote count. A couple of days ago, you were talking about social media and the impact of social media. The average Nigerian now has a voice and now has multiple platforms to vent. Now, my view is this. This government has to be held accountable, right? And what I am seeing, the signs I am seeing, a number of government agencies now all have websites, now are publishing their finances, publishing their expenditure profile. So I think it is very, very easy this time around for us Nigerians to hold government accountable. Take out the subsidy, save us a trillion naira, and show us how the trillion naira has been expended.
While the government is taking out, working towards retaining or taking out subsidy, another guarantee would be, you talked about the government stepping in as a regulator. The crude oil prices have been dropping. The price of diesel has not dropped.
Good.
So what's the guarantee that when the prices keep falling at the open market, petrol is not going to be pegged up there?
Well, every investor at the beginning of their project will commit significant resources to their project. So somebody builds a refinery from scratch. Somebody builds a tank farm to store diesel, right? Now, all of these people have made investments. Those investments are long-term investments. So the returns will come gradually and over time.
So the Nigerian should suffer because of an investment made?
Very good. Now, the question then is this. You know, they say no pain, no gain. Every country that has pulled itself out of poverty has gone through an initial period of hardship. So when private sector takes over from a government producer or provider of a service or a product, in the short run, you will likely see higher prices, right? So even the diesel we're talking about, for a long time, it hovered around the 150, 160 range. But like I mentioned now, gradually it is starting to come down, because what happens is this: once it is deregulated, then additional players are encouraged to come into the market. When you have multiple players, they now start competing on the basis of price. And that is why in the short term, 2, 3, 4 years down the line, you start to see the prices coming down.
In closing, going forward, understanding the good of subsidy removal is very key here. If you have a labor union that still doesn't see any good in it, and you still have a section of the country who think otherwise, how can we avoid a repeat of what transpired during the last administration when an attempt was made at removing subsidy?
I think this time around, there has to be better engagement between government and the people. I think that this time around, compared to the last time when government made an attempt to take out the subsidy, I think in terms of credibility, I believe that the average Nigerian seems to believe that the current leadership we have today will deliver on their promises. What I will ask Nigerians to do is, let us give them yet another opportunity. right? Let us give them an opportunity. Let us judge them on their own performance. And I believe that this government has the sincerity and has the personnel to actually deliver on its promises. So I will have to ask Nigerians, let us engage with government, let us take the sacrifice that is required, and let us do our very best to pull ourselves out of this hole. But we really cannot do it without sacrifice. Other countries have done it. Singapore did not become the Asian tiger it is today without sacrifice.
Should we wait for the PIB to come into being before we make that move, or the move can also be done without the PIB?
I think what you will see is a concurrent move. Fortunately, this government has looked into the PIB, agreed with a lot of analysts who felt this document is unwieldy. Let us break it into different parts. And the government has done that, and that process has started. So I think that whilst the legislation is being reworked, I think that private sector initiatives should be encouraged. I think public government participation should reduce. The PIB will then tie in all of these initiatives and hopefully encourage even more private sector investment.
We'll keep the discussion and the conversation on, and we do hope that this understanding and end in this perennial problem of fuel scarcity in the country will one day be a theme of the past. We hope to get more and more voices on this particular matter on ending this problem. Bayo Rotimi is a financial analyst, and he's been speaking with us on the need for the government to take the bull by the horn and take off our subsidy regime and put a final stop to the problem of scarcity of petroleum product and make for a deregulated and robust economy. We'll take a moment here. We'll return shortly. Stay with us.